Hello, everybody, and good morning for all of you who are joining now on Facebook Live, and for the many people still trying to join, let me see, on the Zoom. I'm trying to admit everybody as they come in. Good morning, everybody. My name, if you don't know me so far, is Dr. Sharon Shachaf. This is how you actually pronounce it. It's an Israeli name. I'm originally from Israel. I came to the USA, to Texas in 2004 to get my PhD in University of Texas at Austin. It was a fantastic experience. I'm a global media scholar in my training. As I was finishing, I was also pregnant for the first time. And it was a really interesting time of my life when I had a dissertation to defend, a job waiting in a different state, and a baby to, birth. So that was not stressful at all. I became an expert in the academic writer's block, living through that experience and learning that, the practices that might have worked when I was a graduate student, happy and carefree and childless, and I could just do all the bad things like stay all night when the deadline came and be rewarded sometimes by, a good paper that would come out of it, and sometimes not so much, right? But those habits become a vicious cycle because you start believing that it is the waiting for the deadline that got you there. And it's not. It's not, So part of what I'm working, doing in my work every day, teaching workshops for academic writers and working with private clients for coaching is observe how we develop certain habits in our writing life, in our writing practice, that are no longer serving us. And a lot of us have these practices in common. So I've spent time, I'm writing a book on this. So I've studied, the specific, as I said, the special place in hell for academic writers, how we are wired. And a lot of you, I'm sure, know a lot of my YouTube videos. And if you don't, go find me on my YouTube channel. It's also called Academic Writers Unblock. I have a lot of advice videos that break down this context. But anyways, I'm kind of stalling for time because more people are joining on the Zoom. But okay, so now those of you who are joining on Facebook and on the Zoom, you are invited to let me know, where are you in the world and what time is it? For me, it's morning, it's 9:39 now in a.m. So on the Zoom, I know some people are from Germany, or Europe, Germany, and the likes, and they this is 5:30 for them. Some people are joining from places where it's even later or earlier. So please, if you are on Facebook or Zoom, you can, in the chat, let me know where you're from as we are getting ready to start. All right. And now let me share the screen and start my PowerPoint. So this morning, I have a short presentation. I'm really going to try not to go over an hour because we have a whole week of this coming, and I don't want to overstay my welcome or, exhaust you all. Now, if you are on Zoom, let's see. Could you let me know if you are seeing my PowerPoints now that I went into PowerPoint mode? Yes. Good. Yes. Yay. All right. Fantastic. I love it. Appreciate it. Yes. Okay. So this is me, just to repeat, Dr. Sharon Shachaf, my PhD from UT Austin in 2009. I'm a global media scholar in my academic background. And I was a tenure track professor. I was the forever tenure track professor, given that I had two babies on the tenure clock. So a lot of you know how that works. But I taught university basically since I would say the year 2000, when I was, getting my MA, and I started teaching as a teaching assistant. And in Tel Aviv University, it's one of these programs where you have your own. It's not breakout sessions. You have your own classes. I am now a writing and life coach. I hate that word coach because it's like bringing in that like, hey, team, let's go, let's do it kind of. I'm not a fan of the word, but this is what the world started calling people who are not exactly therapists, but would get you better results sometimes. I'm a fan of therapy. If you have debilitating anxiety or depression or whatever, I recommend you go get therapy. And there is something about the world of what we call coaching that I find super helpful. I find it helpful as a client. I find it helpful as a coach. One of my coach friends said to me the other day that therapy is more focused on the past and coaching is more focused on the present and the future. And I kind of loved that. I think it was Adrian. You might be on, Adrian. Let me know if it's you. Oh, good. And I'm getting, Gina, thank you on Facebook. You're letting me know that you can see the PowerPoint. And those of you who are on Facebook, let us know where you're from. I am actually monitoring the feed. Okay, so moving on. Obviously, if you're here, you probably know my Facebook community, Academic Writers Unblock. It is now at, oh, it's funny, on this picture I have 2.8K, we're at 3.8K, so we're 1,000 people later. Please invite your academic network. I see time and again, the more people you know who are involved in a community, the better outcome you get for your own goals. So please invite your friends. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel, etc. Now I added here in my, when I'm introducing myself, that I do have paid workshops. I will talk a little bit more about them throughout the week. And on Friday, I am going to announce the, I'm opening enrollment for the Winter Spring Foundational Workshop. I'm not going to talk about this too much today, but the training and the kind of work that we will be doing this week mirrors that foundational workshop. The name of that workshop is Develop Your Academic Writing Practice, Style, Process, and Craft, or is it Process, Craft, and Style? Those are the elements, right? So I work with academic writers to fill a gap, right? We're academics. We find a gap, we fill the gap, right? So the gap I'm feeling is we are not being trained as writers. Okay, so let me actually stop sharing so that you guys can see me more fully. I want to talk about this for a second. The way I envision this work, and it's also a book project, and it's my workshops, and it's a lot of my work one-on-one with clients, is I really hope that as people take this training or take my workshops or learn how to work in the way that I developed and I help people develop in their own writing practice, I see this as the public pedagogy because I know that I had lovely people. Really, I was lucky. I had a really supportive community of advisors and mentors as a graduate student. But they themselves, a lot of them were blocked writers. They exhibited the same blocked behaviors and the same shitty, habits around their writing. I had a really beloved mentor who told me things like, I just never read what I write after I publish it. Just don't read it, Again, as a way to address my perfectionism. That never sat with me well, however, because you can hear, for me, I always say to my clients, my coach ear perks up. Because what I hear when somebody tells me today something like, I don't read what I write, I hear alienation. I hear a person being alienated from the work they do. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me. When you're at the point where you're that alienated from the work you do, it tells me that you have trauma around it. We can go into that. Are we overusing the word trauma? I do think the trauma is, obviously there is a range. There's the trauma that happens when you have had a life-threatening or violent thing happen to you. We're not trying to diminish that kind of trauma. But if you're a creative person and a person who, has a question that you're investigating and you want to share with the world your question and the answers in your investigation, but you get very alienated from the process that would get your thoughts into written form, into the world published, that's a sort of that's a trauma. And these things are traumatic also because they usually are kind of, they're built on an older creative wound. And especially for us academic writers, those wounds are very intertwined with our experiences in formal education, in schools. So I tell a lot of, when I work with creative writers, you didn't go to school to write creatively. So it's kind of a territory that can be separated in a way that academic writers do not get to have, because for us, we started writing academically at first grade. So, if it's first grade, second grade, third grade, somebody insulted our writing or insulted us or our creativity or silenced us or didn't like the way our brain thinks, we started getting what we call in the coaching world conditioning. We're getting conditioned away from our own expression. That's our unique original contribution, our what I like to call mutation, our mutative contribution that's here to, if you have your own personal mutation, you share it with the collective, you mutate the whole. And this is science for you, right? You study something, you find a gap, you find a different way, and you want to share it. If somebody shuts you down early on, like elementary school teachers sometimes can, you can have fantastic teachers, you can have awful teachers, right? The famous Albert Einstein story where he didn't do well at school, right? So by the way, if you're seeing this on Facebook, feel free to share if you, it doesn't have to go into the details, but, do you feel like you have an academic trauma? And, do you feel like it came from early on in your life? Feel free to share and also share where you are in the world. Okay, so a lot of people are still joining in. All right, so all of this to say, I feel there's a gap. Universities are not training academic and especially research students as writers. There is, however, a whole world out there, like some of my books about the creative process, about writing. Here's just randomly one really great book that's called Writing with Quiet Hands, which I use a lot in my workshop. So what I do in my workshop is there's a curriculum. This is a workshop for academic writers. So every week you get a lot of readings. You don't have to do all the readings, but you get it in PDF form for free. You get kind of like the best of these books. And I recommend a lot of books to work with. And, sometimes I would recommend for people to, I see people in the chat are saying academic trauma. Yes. Oh my God. So by the way, let me introduce a tool for you. So every time something comes up here that is bringing up a memory or a story, I recommend, and I always have this here. Look, I buy blank paper from the dollar store in crates of 40. You can get, this is at $1 for 40 pages, and I get them in crates of 40. I recommend journaling, pen on paper. This is going to be your homework today, is to start doing morning pages. I'll talk about this more. It's a whole practice. But feel free to take everything that resonates with your heart this morning and include this in like a free flow exercise of just writing what you think, writing what you feel, put it on the page and move on. It's not for somebody to read. It's not for even for you to go back and read. We'll talk about this later, why this is such a great, fantastic intervention. It's called Morning Pages. It's from Julia Cameron. I love this book, The Right to Write, which is specifically for writers. But and I see you guys are writing comments in the Zoom. I will get back to this in a while. Here's The Artist's Way, also from Julia Cameron. This one has 3 of her books. It's not, and her books are like, they have work. Let's see if we can see, I don't know the light. Sorry. Like a lot of her books have little, exercises and writing prompts and work. So I really recommend working with those. Okay, so let me see if I want to. Okay, people are writing about their academic traumas here. Yes. Oh my God. Yes, that resonates. And I never thought about it like that. Yes, it's. Think about. Here's another exercise you can journal about. So, guys, as we work today, write little homework advice for me, right? So write about your academic trauma. Sit for 30 minutes in a quiet place without people around, with your favorite coffee or whatever, or wine or whatever it is, and just write whatever comes to mind about your academic trauma. A lot of the time, those are traumas of silencing. When you are young and somebody shuts you down, it shuts a part of you down that if you will not go back and address it as an adult, it might stay shut. or stay afraid or stay scarred, whatever you want to call it. All right, let's read another one. First semester, somebody says, I was told by a fellow student a few semesters ahead of me, it is sink or swim. Oh, yes. If you can't handle that, you don't belong here. It's so funny. I had somebody that later was my friend the first day of grad school, and I was coming from Israel, and it was the US, and everything was in English, and I was nervous, and he was probably nervous too. And going into class, he told me something about like that, like jokingly, like, oh yeah, it's going to be horrible. You have to prove yourself. Why do we do that to each other, right? My way out of dealing with people when they're shitty is to try to think about the child that they had been, and ask myself compassionately, what did they do to that child to make them such a stinky, shitty, narcissistic, horrible adult? So that's my advice for when people come to you. But by the way, I have one of my most watched videos on my YouTube channel deals with exactly that, with how graduate school brings out like these dynamics of sibling rivalry. I'll add, if you're watching this on Facebook, I will later add the link for that clip, for that video on the Facebook feed. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. So you guys can see the PowerPoint. Let me know if you're on Zoom. Would you let me know?
Yes.
Good. Yay. Thank you. All right. So what are we doing? Zoom is hiding my own PowerPoint screen. All right. So what do you need to participate in this week's challenge, right? You signed up, you probably already did, to the free email list for materials and reminders. You get the workbook. By the way, if you guys are watching this and you're not watching this live, you're watching this later on Facebook, we will have another session today. I'm not going to do 2 sessions a day the whole week. But I'm trying to find the people who are in different time zones. So I will do another introductory one later today. You can, by the way, if you're here and you're free at 5 p.m., my 5 p.m., feel free to jump in. No sessions are ever really identical, but I want to do another introductory one. So download the workbook. I really recommend that you print it out. How many of you printed it out? You can say on the Facebook, or you can say, on the Zoom, on the chat, if you would like, print it out. I really love to work with the printed out workbook. We'll look at this as well on my PowerPoint and everything, but I am a big pen on paper person because of all the research that shows that when we actually use our hands to write with a pen, more areas of our brain light up. So especially for emotional processing, to get emotionally clear, to get emotional clarity, it's just not the same bang for your buck, typing on a keyboard that it is when you do writing by hand. Okay, so all the links are on the Facebook group. On both my Facebook groups, there's the Academic Writers Support Circle. Oh, funny, it's still called, this is an old PowerPoint. So here it's called Summer 2021, but I changed it to Winter 2022 because here we are. Daily sessions would be live and remain available for 2 weeks. Now, look, I pretty much do a quick version of my foundational workshops. So I'm not leaving it for more than the community building challenge period of time, which I do in July and December, January. All right, so it's going to be available for the next 2 weeks. And you don't have to go on Zoom if you don't want to. All right, during the challenge, we will, okay, I'm skipping this because this is in the workbook, right? All right, you know what, I'll say it one more time. This is kind of like the goals. We will understand the science and psychology underlying writer's block. Again, it's a sample buffet. We're not gonna go as deep as we do in the workshop, because in the workshop, this is a whole week or maybe sometimes 2 weeks, where we do a lot of readings from psychology, from brain science, from creative, from yoga and meditation. I can show you some of the books later that we use. And I curate a syllabus, right, with free PDF, and everything is ready for you. And then what we do in the workshop is there's pre-recorded lessons once a week where I lecture on the thing. So you don't even have to read it if you don't have the time. I highlight the main things. And then we have a live session where we workshop it together. And then during the week, you do the reading, you get a lot of writing prompts. You can do as many or as little as you can. And If I am not wrong, you know what? I should probably already say. I think if I have it correctly, we're starting the next one January, like mid-January. I'll tell you the exact date and everything on Friday. All right. We will learn and practice simple unblocking interventions. So this is the second unit of my workshop. We understand writer's block, and then we start practicing things to help you unblock. We identify and clarify your writing goals. You wouldn't believe how many times people get stuck because, you know, more than anything else, they don't have clarity around their goals. We understand how to manage time by working with your own natural rhythm. That's worth stopping for. Today's going to be interesting. Stop being the shirt. My approach to working with time is very counter-hegemonic and counter-cultural, if you will. I remember getting a lot of really shitty advice around time from advisors in academia. It's always like, just do it, you know, sit there and do it. All of you who are here, I believe, already probably know that there would be times where you are going to put 1,000,000 hours into something. But if you are blocked and you are stuck and there is another underlying reason, just throwing more and more time, like good time after bad, as we say in English, which is a really nice expression I like, is not going to solve the problem. How many of you, and you can say on the Facebook or on the chat on Zoom, had that experience where you did put in the time and you are, stuck on a project and maybe you're tired, maybe you're burnt out, you're sitting there, you are putting in the time, but you can't move the goddamn thing forward, right? So this idea that the only problem that we might have with time is that we're not disciplined and we're not putting in the time. It's the quicksand kind of trap, because we get stuck and we try to keep kind of doing more and more of the same. And, it's when you're in quicksand, you don't want to, keep moving because you're going to sink quicker. You want to kind of relax and find a different way out. My different way out to the whole topic of dealing with time is called the time dance. You need to understand that every single person on earth has a different relationship with time. Of course, we fall into major groups, right? But we have a different relationship with time. Our inner process takes different time. We need to do, certain activities in different time. Some of us want to wake up early. Some of us want to wake up late. Some of us want to write at night. Some of us want to write first thing in the morning. My approach is not about finding some idea that somebody else told you was the way to work with time and then push that round peg into the square hole, right? Or whatever. It's like, all of that needs to go away. You need to align. I see that people are liking this on the Facebook. You need to, you don't need to, but my recommendation, how I like to work with people, is help them align with their natural rhythm. Because we want to do, I keep telling you guys, we want to do the work we want to do, right? We want to do the work. It's not like we don't want to do it. All right. So hopefully now you're seeing, okay, I see on the Facebook, we do see it. So we understand how to manage time by working with your own natural rhythms. So that's a big topic. It's 3 or 4 weeks of the workshop, depending on sometimes I do the workshop over 6 weeks, sometimes over 10 weeks, but it's a big one. And it's not a technical thing. It's a deep psychological, emotional process of unearthing beliefs that you have around your own natural rhythm, mostly that you believe you suck, and you don't suck. You are a creative person, and it takes, one of the teachers I really love talks about, you can't do the right thing if you are not yourself, and you can't be yourself if you don't follow your own inner knowledge. And part of your own inner knowledge is your own inner rhythm, right? So we're all constantly moving. The earth is moving, we are moving, everything is in movement, and it's a dance, right? So anyways, that's how I approach time. Then we need to understand the stages of the writing process and learn to work with instead of against them. So this is kind of like the other side of the time equation, because to get a project done, you need to get work done over time. So it's the two sides, right? There's how are you best aligned with your own inner rhythm? And how can you then create a process that would get you through a project to also meet outside rhythms? You know, you need to finish a degree, you need to publish, there's a deadline, and all of these things. When you learn to first address the writer's block, the trauma, the anxiety, and you develop a way, you know, a routine that will take you away from anxious writing, right? So a lot of people tell me when they start working with me, I think I'm tired, and this is why I'm not writing, but even after a good night of sleep, the minute I get to the computer, I start feeling tired. This tells me that your start menu, right? Like a computer has a start menu. And you know, like I always say this, grandma's computer, sometimes a lot of, so, you know, it takes forever to start because, you know, the start menu is trying to open Skype and it's trying to open like 100 different things that it's heavy. Our start menu is heavy with anxiety protocols. So if your start menu, and when you approach writing, already you drag into the writing space unknowingly and unconsciously a lot of internal angst. You know, the teacher from third grade that traumatized you, the TA in introduction to whatever, psychology, and now you have a PhD in psychology, they told you you're not smart enough in creative writing, you know, somebody who didn't like your poem when you were in fourth grade, whatever it is. We bring those unconscious things into the space. I'm doing this between me and my laptop right now, right? And then we create what I call like the opposite magnet, right? Like the repelling magnetic field that kind of repels you from your desk, from your computer. So what I do a lot of the time, the first 4 weeks, but definitely throughout the workshop, I have you guys examine that relationship, what you're unconsciously bringing with you. It's like, you know, you stepped in shit and now you're tracking that shit all over and you're bringing this into your workspace. We detoxify that relationship. We create rituals around creating a nice, lovely space. Like, you know, I never had a space like this. This is my little study. It's in my bedroom. You're not going to see that's the other side, right? But I created this in COVID. We were all working at home for a couple of years. Oh, thank you on Zoom. I'm not going to name names, but somebody's commenting. I feel so seen right now. That's me when I open my laptop, right? And again, yes, speaks to me with my work on my dissertation and now book Under the Shadow of Not Good Enough. Oh, yes, we talk a lot about that feeling of inadequacy. So I'll get to that in a minute, but yeah, we bring into that relationship a lot of things. So the work, now look, it can seem counterproductive, right? Because of the bad advice we always are used to as academics. The only advice that I would get as an academic writer when I was asking, you know, advisors and superiors, and even later on when, you know, I myself was a professor, peers would be like, just do it. Stop talking about like your emotions. Stop talking about your difficulty. Just sit there and just do it. It's lazy advice, it's horrible advice, and it's unhelpful advice, because you know what? Writing is not fingers flapping on keyboards. Okay, that's maybe, I don't even think it's 10% of writing. Writing is a deep, profound, complex human behavior. It has, you know, it's activating all of the regions of your brain. It requires patience. It requires perseverance. It requires inspiration, which sometimes means leaving your computer and going out, taking a walk, or, you know, listening to music or doodling in the background and thinking all of these things. So I invite you, and maybe, you know, again, if you're watching this later, you can pause right now and do some journaling, or if you're watching now, we'll keep going, but you can do this later. Pause and, like, you know, journal about this. And I'm going to introduce another tool, the open-ended question, right? So instead of like, why do I suck at this? Ask something like, what does it look like for me to enjoy my writing life? And then, you know, just free flow. You see the open-ended question, again, there's a lot of brain science and psychology underlying what I do. I'm an academic, I'm a logical person. I like the research, I like the peer-reviewed shit, you know. So all of the things I'm telling you, even the woo-woo, you know, the most woo-woo things I'm telling you have practical peer-reviewed research underlying them. So I forgot where that sentence starts. All right, charging on. We need to detoxify. Oh, the open-ended question. So the open-ended question, allows you to engage the conscious and unconscious. So a lot of the work I do falls under the rubric of what, Jungian kind of shadow work. And again, we can go into, if I'm hearing somebody, so unless you have a question, please mute yourself on the Zoom. Okay, let me see who needs to mute himself on the Zoom. Please mute yourself if you're on the Zoom. Okay, good. So a lot of the work I do, let me go back to showing myself. Okay, great. All right, so a lot of the work I do brings together those tools from shadow work, all sorts of mindfulness, meditation, yoga, So use open-ended question. What does it look like for me to heal my academic trauma? What does it look like for me to start developing a writing practice that is aligned with my own natural rhythm? What does it look like for me, right? All of these things. Okay, I'll move on. I'm not a big, follow the PowerPoint person. So I'm basically covering a lot of the things that I was going to introduce anyways. So this is all good. All right, next up, learn how to go from an outline to a finished product without panic. I love that part, right? So that is connected to the understanding the staging of the writing. Oh, now I remember, I started with that. So part of, a big part of my workshop takes the literature from, there's a lot of literature about the creative process, but it's all for creative writers. Like, for example, On Being Stuck is a fantastic book from Loren Herring. What else? Like, for example, When We Get to Style, we read this fantastic book by John Franklin, Writing for Story, which has a lot of advice about style and, structuring and, how to understand structure and how to outline in a way that's creative, etc. But we adapt this literature that is not intended. There's very, very little literature on the writing process that's intended for academic writers. I adapt it for the academic writing project, for the life cycle of an academic paper that, can start as an abstract for a conference and grow all the way to, either a dissertation or a book chapter or a book, etc., or a grant proposal. There are stages for every creative process, and writing academically is a creative process. It's also a logical process. It's all sorts of, it has a lot of moving parts. So if you don't allow yourself to learn, and again, this is the gap that I recognize in how we train graduate students, and this is how I started training my own graduate students. I was lucky enough to teach graduate students for the 8 or 9 years. My last 8 or 9 years as a professor in academia, I was in a tenure track position, and I had also overseen 6 PhD students, as a PhD advisor. And I got really fascinated with developing things that would work for them to help them get through from outline to finished product without panic. And the way to do that is to actually take time to learn the stages of the writing process. And that includes not just the structure of the thing, but the stages of you as a writer. What does it look like for you? People in academia do not know that it's okay to spend some time confused. How many of you feel that it's okay to be confused and turned around in your work? And you can say on the Facebook or on the Zoom chat, right? Very few of us, we panic if we feel that we are confused. And so how do you get something to be organized if you wouldn't let yourself be in the mess of the thing first? So one of the things I teach when I look at the writing process is that, and here's a mantra for you, we weave order out of confusion. It's taken from the ancient Chinese book of changes, the I Ching. If you don't know the I Ching, go learn about the I Ching. It's really fantastic. And the I Ching talks about weaving order out of confusion. Confusion and doubt are important parts of the scientific process, right? Correct. But as academics, if we don't feel that we are certain about the answer, we panic. But how can we ask a new question without allowing ourselves to have time to get confused, to get, overwhelmed by all the new information that comes to us when we put together a new question? So I train my students, my clients, to learn to tolerate and actually welcome that kind of okay, let me see, that kind of approach. Somebody's writing here, I am an anthropologist and the confusion is always a trace. Yes, that makes so much sense. Okay, thank you, great. So yeah, keep writing. I will, even if I don't address this live, I will address your comments and questions later. So yes, these are some of the things that I like to do and highlight. And just to start changing all those traumatized, frozen ways in which we've learned or taught ourselves to deal with our writing. Okay, I'm moving ahead. This is the challenge at a glance. You guys have it on the workbook, so you can look at yourself. I do want to just highlight this number 5, exclusive hot seat coaching. If you want to be coached by me during this presentation on Friday, maybe Thursday, maybe we'll do one Thursday, one Friday, you'll have a chance to sit in the what we call the hot seat and get like laser focused training coaching with me to talk about your academic trauma or time management or any other topic we will be bringing up, or publishing or whatever it is. And then we will have another live Q&A where you can ask me anything. And then there's a surprise bonus session that's probably going to be next Monday or Tuesday, although we might do the Q&A Monday and then the bonus session Tuesday. So stay tuned. All right. The challenge, how to create a writing practice day. So before I go into, let me just highlight one more time. I know that when I post this all over Facebook and Twitter and wherever, and I invite you to do a writing challenge, a lot of people think that the writing challenge would be challenging you to write that many words, like write, however, 3,000 words today. No, that's not the challenge. That's the kind of old way of thinking about writing that I actually want you guys to leave behind. Okay, I'm going to go into a pet peeve about word count. I love a lot of my friends and colleagues, and I love you. And if you're looking at this and it's something you do, don't take this personally. But I am against people going up on Facebook and saying, today I met my goal of writing 30,000 words. My problem with this is that I know some really, really, really good writing days took 3,000 words and made them into really hard-hitting 300 words. I don't know when we started conflating generating words with the product of writing. Writing has a lot of different stages, and generating words is just one of them. And again, a lot of you, I'm sure, know, and let me know on the chat or on Facebook if you identify with this, that you can have a day that, and you wrote a lot of words, but it didn't really move the dial. It didn't move you out of stuckness. It didn't get you into clarity where you were confused. It didn't answer your questions where you had doubts. So I don't like conflating word number with, so the challenge is not like, let's all write however many words this week. What is the challenge? What I am challenging you to do is to change your ways, right? So I'm challenging you to create a writing practice that is regular but flexible, focused yet playful and fun. Can you believe it can be fun? I'm telling you, it can be fun. Radically self-accepting. That's a big one. Radical self-acceptance. You need to respect your individual rhythm, your energy level, your ways of knowing, your ways of thinking, your ways of executing things, which are different from other people's. And you need to take into account the reality of your life. Again, as I told you before, when I didn't have children and I could just stay all night, and that worked for me. I got, really good products out in the world and people liked them and gave me a job and whatever. But what to do? Life continues. When I had 2 babies and I was a nursing mom, that went out the window. I didn't have a practice to fall back on that would actually address the reality of my life. So is this something that's hitting you, resonating with you? Did you have a transition in your life where the old way you used to do things stopped working because a big transition happened? Do you need to stop, drop, and roll, which is something I say all the time? If you're not in the US, this is how we tell the kids in the US in fire drills. Stop, drop, and roll, which is kind of funny. Like, right, if you're on fire, turns out a lot of people just start running frantically around, but they need to stop, drop on the floor, and roll around to put out the fire. And I love that for blocked writers, because a lot of the time, basically, you are on fire, but you're not naming your pain. You're not naming the problem. You're not naming that you're on fire. And therefore, you continue to run around on fire rather than stop, drop, and roll. So tell yourself, stop, drop, and roll. All right. And back to the first sentence, right? This challenge wants you to learn how to create a writing practice that's also slow and patient, and that it is planned well, yet allows for setbacks, confusion, mistakes, accidents, exhaustion, etc. Okay, we are almost running out of time, but that's okay. We're going to continue as we go in the next couple of days. Let me throw a couple of quotes at you. There's this really fantastic, I always mention this one. John Irving, you know, who wrote Cider House Rules and Hotel New Hampshire and The World According to Garp, once said, and this is something that I've encountered when I was still a hairy, blocked, tenure track professor with a 2-year-old and a newborn. And I saw that quote, and it said about writing, if you presume to love something, you better like the process of it more than you love the product. Again, some of you, let me know if you already heard me telling this story, because I told it a lot of times. But when I saw that quote, I got angry. I was like, love the process. Are you kidding me? How can I love this? You know, my life is miserable. I'm stressed all the time. I need to put this book under contract. I need to do this or that. And I have these 2 kids. I need to parent them in a way that later on in life, I'm not ashamed of myself. How can I love the process more than I like having a product, more than I would like having a book out or under contract, or, you know, something to write in my merit review, so that everybody would get off my back. I got really angry, but it kind of stayed with me, kind of working its way through my brain like a worm. And all these years later, I can tell you that this, I think, was the door that opened for me to go through and go find out how could it be possible to actually love your process of writing academically or writing in any way more than you're going to like the product. So is this a provocation for you today? Again, feel free to go ahead and write about it. Okay, so are you guys still seeing this? Here's another quote, and this one is from the book that I showed you before from Lorraine Herring, On Being Stuck. You probably can see it, it's very small here, On Being Stuck. And Lorraine Herring talks about the creative process not, being more like an ocean than it is a machine, right? So she says the creative process isn't a machine. It's an ocean in which the artist or the academic writer must swim to bring forth their work. Our job as writers is to establish the conditions conducive to caring for this ocean. So I really love these quotes as kind of an invitation for you guys to engage with opening your mind about the relationship or the kind of relationship you can have with your writing practice. What if you think about, so much of our training goes back to this idea that the process is a machine, right? Even the best books that are for academic writers, like, I'm going to do a book avalanche here, Eviatar Zubavel's Clockwork Muse, can find it right. Oh, here it is. No, it's not. Oh, okay. Definitely this sheet book. This is the book I bring to, I don't recommend this book, How to Write a Lot. I hate this book. This is the book that says that writing is this. Anyways, right? But they pretend like writing is like, do this, ABC, 1, 2, 3. I remember my undergraduate students coming to me and asking me, saying things like, I don't have my thesis statement. I'm like, yeah, how can you have your thesis statement if you didn't go through the process of asking a question, understanding your topic, understanding what you're asking about it, going out to the library, there are right? So this idea, we tell the students, you need a thesis statement, you need this or that, right? You need a research question. If a research question is something that you have before you did the research, excuse me, I'm cursing, right? I teach that our research question, you really get the full-blown research question when you're writing your last draft, because a research question is a rhetorical tool, right? Say your topic was, whatever, but you went out and you found 3 discourses shaping our stereotypes about a certain group, right? I'm thinking undergraduate paper, right? You then go back and you write a research question that, what are the 3 discourses shaping this stereotype in the 20th century representation of Asian American women in Hollywood cinema, right? We make it more concrete. We can't write the final research question before we did the research, before we actually understood what we discovered, right? So these are rhetorical tools. So my approach really tries to highlight the process. If you go through a correct kind of process, you understand the stages and you let yourself have the stages, you develop a topic, you develop your questions about the topic, you go out and investigate, you let yourself learn the literature. Okay, I'm going into all of the stages and we'll do more of that later on. But when you do the process and you allow yourself to have the process, and for the process to also have stages where you're confused or you have too much, right? Or you have too little. Usually academic writers have too much, right? The too muchness, the overwhelm. If you train yourself to recognize, oh, good, I'm in that stage. I'm in the stage of expansion and I need to be in it for a while before I can contract again, right? For example, then you can deal with the panic, you can deal with the anxiety. And let me tell you another thing, when you understand the process, you're not going to procrastinate, because we procrastinate just because we don't understand how to get from where we are to writing a final draft. But we can't write a final draft first, right? So understanding the process, learning the stages, those are the magic tricks of the trade of helping academic writers unblock. All right, we are just about out of time, so we're not going to get too much into the brain science of writer's block today, but I do want to share with you this another quote, as we are actually from psychology. This Victoria Nelson is a therapist and a psychologist. She has a PhD in psychology, and she wrote a really fantastic book about writer's block. And she says the following thing, and so that might be a good place to stop. Let's see what time it is. No, I can actually do the next slide too. All right, let's try. She says this: writers who find themselves unable to produce have made a choice not to write, but they do not experience it as a choice. Okay, let's say this again. You made a choice not to write if you're completely blocked, but you don't experience this as a choice. Why? Because the part of you that made that choice, did I stop? Hang on, why am I? Okay, this is weird. Do you guys see me okay? There you go.
On Zoom, yes.
Okay, good. And on Facebook, I see. Okay, good. Because I see myself twice on Zoom. It's really interesting. Anyway, so the choice you made not to write, I mean, I know it can be very upsetting if you are blocked and you sit there every day and you're trying to write and you can't write, and I tell you made a choice not to write, you can get angry, and I get it. Don't get angry. Just wait a second. What I'm trying to say by what Victoria Nelson is saying by that, and by the way, I really recommend getting her book on writer's block. I'll put the links for all of these books later, is that we are more than just what we consciously experience, okay? Again, this is basic Jung, Freud, and everything since, of course, you know, our behavior is not, sadly, for a lot of us, gladly, for those of us who embraced it, it's not only driven by the rational conscious mind. Also, some of our conscious mind is not that rational, honestly. There is a part of us inside, more parts of our brain, of our experience, of our emotional, cognitive, like emotional intelligence, emotional cognition, that also participate and actually have a lot more to do on whether or not you're going to continue successfully with something. Jung said, and it's another quote that I really love, what we do not bring to consciousness appears in our life as destiny, as fate. Because, so for example, if you're not going to bring your academic trauma into consciousness, the reasons why you get blocked, it's going to appear in your life as destiny, as writer's block. And, it can appear in your life as a writer's block that's going to prevent you from graduating or getting tenure or whatever it is that you're trying to do, right? So again, my invitation for you is if you are blocked and you are stuck and you are, I want to go into burnout a little bit, but burnout is a big part of it, right? And if you're burnout, it's a really good sign that you are going against your inner knowing, against your inner soul's desires or your inner, your body and soul's need. You need to also bring in inspiration. You need to also rest and recharge. I can't get too much into you guys know the life of the academic. You guys are teaching, you guys are doing research, you guys are doing service, you guys are doing, if you're in a graduate school, you might be in debt, you might have to work 500 jobs, you might have children as well. You get burnt out, you get, completely depleted, and you don't have a practice in place that actually tells you, okay, I need to recharge before I can successfully do this. So what we end up doing, I'm sorry, it keeps getting dark. I hope it's not. Okay. What we end up doing is we just dig ourselves deeper and deeper into burnout and exhaustion. And that place, that's the opposite place of inspiration, right? So my invitation for you is dig, bring out of the shadow, right? That's the Jungian thing, right? Jung says we put a lot of things in the shadow. We'll talk about that more later, but right, as we create our conscious mind, our ego, we also create the shadow. We put stuff in the shadow that we don't accept about ourselves, right? So for example, you tell a child, we don't steal. So your ego is identified with we don't steal, and you put stealing in the shadow, right? But we make these judgments really early on in life. So a lot of the things we put in the shadow are actually gold. So Jung says, go dig in the shadow for gold. The job, according to Jungian kind of approaches, right, of our second part, especially, after 40 or after 30, the second part of our life is to go back and reevaluate the judgments you've made based on your teachers, your parents, the judgments you made when you were 7 years old are either based on other people's values or, if those were your values at 7, doesn't it make sense to revisit those when you are in your 40s or your 30s or your 20s? So this is the idea. We go back, revisit what's in the shadow, and we can find in the shadow the reason for the unconscious decision we made not to write. It's most of the time, it's as simple as, I'm depleted. I don't have anything more to give, but I'm sitting here trying to force myself because I made a commitment to try to put in the time, but I don't have the tools. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is the gap is you can put in less time, but when you are mindful of the stage you are in a project or the stage you are in as a writer, right? There are different things. There's in this book, in this one, on being stuck, tapping into the creative power of writer's block by Lorraine Herring. She talks about 2 different kinds of writer's block. She talks about writer in process block and project in process block, right? So you can be blocked because as a writer, you need to go learn something, a new skill, and you can't do it. You can't finish the piece until you taught yourself that skill. Or it could be something about that project, or as a writer, you're depleted, or it could be about the project. Anyway, we'll get to that more. All right, last but not least, but we're gonna go more into this tomorrow, right? The brain basics, how it works. So I just wanna recommend the book. I'm not gonna go into this. Around the Writer's Block, I have it somewhere here, but anyways, it's also up here on the PowerPoint. Where is it? Oh, here it is. It's one of my favorite all-time books, especially for academic writers, because it is a really good kind of like popular science summary of the brain science behind writer's block. Also, it has all of the stuff that you guys do all the time. I don't know, I see it as a mirror, so I hope you guys see it, right? It says, using brain science to solve writer's resistance, including, and this is like your calling card, writer's block, procrastination, paralysis, perfectionism, postponing, distraction, self-sabotage, excessive criticism, overscheduling, and endlessly delaying your writing. So it's kind of like when I first saw this book, I was like, how do you know me? Right, when I was an academic writer. So it's a fantastic book. It's fun to read, relatable, good. I see people, exactly. I think I sold a whole lot of books for Roseanne Bain. I love Roseanne Bain. She also wrote a really good book about, it's called Dancing in the Dragon's Den. Where do I have this one? I don't know where it is, for shadow work. So check Roseanne Bain out. The shadow work book is a little older. It's called Dancing in the Dragon Den. I really recommend get it, work with it. If you take the workshop, we do a lot of shadow work from that book. All right, so tomorrow we're gonna go into our little mini lesson about your brain and how you get the brain chemistry behind resistance, but we're not going to do it now. So again, I'm not, this is based on her book, the chapters we read, chapter 2 and 3, and I think maybe even 4 and 5 during or excerpts from it during the workshop, because she really does a fantastic job explaining, kind of summarizing the history of brain, of brain science research into the behaviors that underlie, or the brain chemistry that underline writer's block. So it's a really fantastic book, between Victoria Nelson's book on writer's block that really gives you a fantastic psychological, scientific explanation, and her Roseanne Bain's book that is kind of more in the brain science and cognitive behavioral therapy. This book also gives you a really fantastic program of unblocking. Like, I don't follow any program as is. I always tailor it to the person. So if you work with me in the workshop or you work with me as a client one-on-one, I will not be like, take this book, do everything it says. But again, to empower you in your own process, I would suggest certain modalities or practices that I know work, and I will really listen to you as you try to work with them. Because listen, a writer's block is a really smart thing. It can take every tool that could be helpful and make it a part of the block. This is why I'm so careful, especially around the issues of time management, but even morning pages, I've had people, start doing the morning pages and then feel like, oh my God, it's, I can't do it. So now I'm angry at myself for not doing that. So that's absolutely not the idea with that. All right, I forgot to actually give you homework. So let's jump to the workbook questions for today. So let's do this as homework. Writer's block, this is in the workbook. It's in, okay, let me actually stop the, okay, later I'll stop the share and I'll share the workbook. But these are the questions, they're from the workbook. If you didn't yet download the workbook, I will put the link here again. So I just want you to respond to these, to write this as homework. Writer's block can appear in a diverse range of phenomena. How does it look like when you are blocked? What happens? What happens in your body, right? What thoughts and voices do you hear internally when you're blocked? So I just recommend writing in, again, pen on paper, answer these questions. What thoughts and voices do you hear internally when you are blocked? List all the things that you tell yourself about your writing that aren't true. If you tell yourself you never this or you always that, list counter evidence. Like if you say, I never finish anything, but you're a professor, so you finished your PhD, you finished your MA, you finished a lot of, right? Or you're an MA student, you finished a bunch of stuff to get into an MA program, right? So explore those things. All right, so those are your, the homework. Now, again, when you're in a workshop, we take a long ass time and we go into deep dive and we explore this, and we then workshop it live and we support each other and we talk through these things. It's incredibly liberating. People just feel like they, like a really big weight came off their shoulders. Okay, so we're about we're 6 minutes over, but let me just take one or two questions if you have them on the Zoom or on the Facebook. Feel free to ask me. If you let me go, I'll yeah, on the Zoom. Let me know if I'm going to go out of speaker view and into gallery view. I don't know if it's appearing on the Facebook. Anybody has any comment or question that they want to share? And I know I said that was not going to be interactive, so if you're not feeling camera ready, but you can also just open up your sound. So let me know if you have any comments or questions about any of the things we did today. You guys are shy. That's cute. All right. Okay, I see in the chat. No question, but comment. Thank you so much for this. Oh, nice. Humanities-oriented approach. Yes, it is, and I do bring in the psychology and the brain science as well. But yeah, I'm a humanist through and through. You could tell my BA and MA are in comparative literature, and I'm a global media scholar. Thank you. Yes, and humane. I try to make academia or academic writing compatible with being a human being. How about that? A self-compassionate, full-blown human being that addresses all their different needs and requirements. How about that? Not just the cerebral, but the emotional, etc. So thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, guys, would you do? Let me ask this: are you guys thinking you're going to do some of the homework? Can you just, even just, raise in the Zoom? You can just, yes, I'm getting some thumbs up. All right. So this is the challenge, guys. Do the homework, go to the workbook, do all of session 1. We're actually going to cover a lot of this tomorrow, but do the session 1 homework, come in, having done the homework, download the workbook. Oh, okay. Let me share. Yes. Thanks. Somebody's writing. Thanks for your time and expertise. Plan is 9:30 every morning. Yes. So I will try to, good question. So in terms of the time, I love 9:30 in the morning, but I'm not sure I will try to include a couple of afternoon and even evening ones for people who are in places like Australia or Hong Kong, although I'm not sure, this is necessary, but some people are even teaching. I got messages from people who are already teaching, so they're away from 9 to 5. A lot of you are watching this after, and that's okay. A lot of you are watching this after, this is no longer live. Do the homework, fill out the workbook. Oh, I have another announcement. Fill up the workbook. At some point, there are going to be some potential rewards, and it would be based on people filling out in handwriting the workbook and scanning, or taking a picture and sending me the filled out workbook. So, there might be, surprises, discounts, if you want to go in the workshop or maybe I'm even thinking of maybe one spot on the workshop completely for free. So with that said, there is going to be a little bit of a cognitive behavioral hit on the reward of filling out the workbook. All right, my friends. Oh, a letter. Yes, occasional alternate time would work. Have to go to the dentist Thursday. So again, I'm going to try to do different times during, maybe we'll do a check-in on 9:30 every day. And then some days the check-in will say, hey, we're going to do it later. The plan is we're going to have a session today through Friday. We're taking the weekend off, and then we'll do another one Monday and maybe even another one Tuesday. That's the bonus session, depending on how much we do. I don't like to be rigid. And since I'm doing this is like, there is nobody else here. It's me, it's my business, it's my community, it's my choice. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to publish a timeline beforehand. People would come in and interact. And if you can do it live, you can do it later. I am here. This is all I'm doing this week, except for my own writing that I always do on, first thing in the morning or late at night. Feel free to send me questions. You can email me or message me on the Facebook group. Questions, comments. If you want to get on the wait list to enroll in the workshop, more information about the workshop is coming in. On Friday, I'm going to probably open the cart, if you want to, enroll. I try to keep the foundational workshops affordable. I then have an advanced workshop, and I'll talk more about that later as well. The advanced workshop are usually 5 or 6 people. It's a whole semester. It's more expensive because it also includes a lot of developmental one-on-one work. So this is for somebody that has a book project or a dissertation. Usually it's people with research money and book projects, but I'm very open to having people working on MAs or dissertations as well. And we have a whole semester where we actually read each other. In the foundational workshop, I'm teaching this curriculum that I'm giving this week. I am teaching you to build a process. We get to your projects, but not as much. When we get to week 5, 6, 7, 8 in the workshop, we look at the academic style. And the way we do that is we read a little bit of each other, but not 30 pages, right? We read maybe an intro or something, or, a proposal, a short thing. So all of this and more is coming, but you should be, hopefully well supported, even if you're not taking any paid workshop. I love this community. I love the giving back, and I love being able to do this for free. This is a heart-centered enterprise, and I hope that it shows. So let me know what you thought. Let me know what you think. Write about your academic trauma, journal, do morning pages. So 3, I'll explain this more tomorrow, but morning pages are just basically you wake up in the morning and you write 3 pages of free flow, stream of consciousness writing. If 3 is too much for you, or you don't want to do it in the morning, play with it. Julia Cameron, this is her tool. She's very rigid. She's like, you got to do it first thing in the morning and you got to write 3 pages. It's nice to try it that way, but I really recommend trying it whichever way you like, because, and here's the point with this, what it really does is allows you a zero stake starting practice. If you come into your workspace and the first thing you do is you write 3 pages, a lot of the time, this is not the goal, but it happens that you actually end up writing something pretty darn terrific. All right, it's Decatur, so the power tools are on. I knew I was on borrowed time. All right, friends, I'm going to stop the share on Facebook. Those of you who are on the Zoom, feel free to stay for a minute if you want to talk. All right, Facebook friends, I know a lot of you are watching this later, and so let me know if you have any questions or comments or concerns. Bye-bye. All right, friends, so if you're on the Zoom, we should be done with the Facebook part. Yeah, we're not live on Facebook anymore. So feel free to jump in and say hi if you want to. Yeah, sorry about, oh, God. It's actually the gardeners in my own garden. Sorry about that. They come whenever they want to. So if you want to open your camera and just jump and say hi, you don't have to, but I'm here for a couple more minutes if you have questions. This is private right now, so I'm also going to stop the